It's only a matter of time before fans get their first look at Mahershala Ali as the MCU's Blade. The movie is set to hit theaters on November 3rd, 2023, but there is a possibility we might see him before that. Although Basim Tariq has been chosen to direct the movie, it appears that he wasn't Marvel's first choice. So sit back and relax as we talk about who Feige approached first to direct The Vampire Hunter. First and foremost, Blade's no stranger to the big screen. 3 Wesley Snipes-led movies starring Marvel's iconic vampire hunter were released around the turn of the century. But this Blade will definitely be different, one for the next era clearly, and one that will be participating in the MCU's tightly woven storyline. Ever since his off-screen debut in Eternal's post-credit scene, the fans have been eager to catch the first glimpse of the vampire hunter, and honestly, we don't think we can wait anymore. Which brings us to Marvel's first pick to direct Blade. Chad Stahelski, who has helmed all 4 John Wick films, said in an interview that he has had talks with Marvel Studios about directing Blade before Basim Tariq joined the project. Given that he often worked for the studio at the beginning of his career, Stahelski claimed that Marvel was extremely influential in his career. He joined a meeting with Kevin Feige that took place after John Wick 3 and was kind enough to set aside a fair amount of time to indulge in a good chat. Despite the fact that their relationship only lasted a short while, Chad stated that Feige was a very strong mentor to him. He added that Feige has greatly impacted his perspective and understanding of how to proceed. During their discussion, the Marvel boss asked him what he would like to take on in the MCU, to which the John Wick director replied that Blade would be the only exciting project he would like to pursue. But ultimately, Marvel Studios declined Stahelski's request to lead the Daywalker revival, and after further reflection, he's come to the conclusion that he might not have been the best choice after all. However, the filmmaker did suggest Marvel give him a call if they ever want to make an intense, edgy, R-rated movie in the future. Sounds like an R-rated Deadpool movie to us. Up next, did Marvel make the right choice? The director of John Wick might not have just the tone that Marvel is going for, but he would have made one hell of an action-packed Blade standalone film. Who knows though? The MCU may make sense for an R-rated Blade sequel in the future, and Stahelski will be there waiting in the wings like a crush at a prom night. The studio could speak with Basim Tariq, who was chosen to direct Blade, and perhaps bring on the John Wick director to assist with the fighting sequences. That will definitely be in the Mahershala Ali-led epic if they wanted a small success out of this. This would be a strategy similar to the one used by Disney when they hired the Raid movie crew to help choreograph the action sequences for the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There won't be any blood and broken bones that Stahelski is used to, but it could be a more MCU-appropriate medium if he were willing to do it. Lastly, more about the MCU's Blade. Delroy Lindo, an award-winning actor, most known for his appearance in Spike Lee's film Da 5 Bloods, has been cast in the film in an unnamed role. Additionally, there have been reports that The Boys actor Anthony Starr would play Dracula in the film, but this hasn't been confirmed yet, even though it would be an interesting spin on the character. With Anthony's rage, he would ideally be perfect for the role. The film will probably take place after the events in Doctor Strange 2 that shook the multiverse drastically, followed by the other significant changes in the quantum realm that are gonna take place in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They could also show him in the past, setting up his origins way before in the timeline. Black Widow and Captain Marvel are the 2 exhibits of this approach taken by Marvel. But if we're talking about Blade individually, it's highly unlikely that he has anything to do with the quantum realm. But let's see where the film is going to be headed. Now, as for the film's rating, Kevin Feige caused a bit of a stir last year during the Marvel Studios panel at the Television Critics Association, when he said that Marvel might stick to a PG-13 rating for future movies, apart from Deadpool 3. Does that mean the new Blade won't be R-rated? Well, not necessarily. Many fans would definitely be upset if the reboot's amount of blood and brutality didn't match that of the Snipes Blade trilogy, which was R-rated for a valid reason. But even if the new film were rated PG-13, it might still be entertaining. It just wouldn't rely as much on gore. Seems like we'll simply have to wait and see what the movie's actual rating turns out to be for the time being. In other related news, new MCU projects announcements depressed VFX artists. Reports of the MCU's impact on the whole industry have started to surface in recent weeks, including the claims that VFX artists working for Marvel Studios productions sound exhausted and fatigued, and that a culture of overworking is pushed in different below-the-line roles. A VFX artist who has previously worked with Marvel indicated in a recent interview that the industry is not very excited about the MCU's Phase 5 and 6 week's announcements. The industry appears to be a little depressed about Marvel Studios' next slate because of the huge amount of labor it'll be, according to the graphic artist who worked on the Avengers in 2012. The VFX veteran further added that Marvel is not the appealing client it used to be. He also made a negative remark about the burnout that is set in the industry. These VFX specialists are a thread that binds many of today's CG-heavy mega blockbusters together, and if they're unhappy and dissatisfied, the movies just don't get made. Delaying some titles might be necessary, but if it provided the VFX teams with more time to complete each project, it could eventually benefit everyone. We don't think anyone wants these tired artists to go on strike, not the fans and definitely not the hotshot executives at the top. So we say let's give them relaxed deadlines and some rest, shall we? Secondly, Guardians of the Galaxy director prepares fans for the final sequel. Fans may anticipate an emotional conclusion to Gunn's trilogy, as has already been mentioned. Several actors who had read the screenplay spoke up about how the story affected them, and it goes without saying that there were tears involved. All aboard the feels train. James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, spoke in multiple interviews about his next film, how it would contrast with the first two, and what the future might hold. While speaking with GameSpot, Gunn talked about how the next adventure is going to be more mature and have a more emotional plot than the previous films. He also told IGN that this generation of the team will be done after this film, but that he only really cares about them as a team and about the authentic telling of the characters' stories. But don't be fooled by Gunn's remarks. There will probably still be plenty of jokes to go around, but in the end, the storyline as a whole can end up going in some dark directions. The Guardians will continue to appear in films beyond this third one, even though Gunn may be done with them. Another team will most likely be introduced for the next saga. It only depends on who will remain after the final credits start to roll. And lastly, Feige wanted to kill off the OG Avengers in Endgame. Directors of Avengers Endgame, Joe and Anthony Russo, revealed that Marvel Studios CEO Kevin Feige originally intended to kill off Thor and Captain America in the Infinity Saga's concluding blockbuster during a recent interview with MTV. Joe Russo acknowledged that they wanted the fans to feel that anyone could die following Infinity War when he spoke on the battle between the big three Avengers and Thanos. Feige first suggested taking all the OGs off the board, the director said, but they decided it was far too violent and that it would be better to stretch the emotional experience throughout the entire movie instead. Going into Avengers Endgame, many fans were already expecting the worst for the OG6, as the next generation is taking over and new faces are surfacing in Phase 4. Ultimately, only Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow died fighting for the world. But what if Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, and Hawkeye had also died? The impact would have been dramatically less, as the duo stated. Even if the deaths were distributed evenly across the 3-hour film, it would not have given fans enough to process and mourn each hero's loss properly. Yeah, like fans were bawling their eyes out when Tony Stark sacrificed his life saving the world from another snap. What makes Feige think we could have handled the deaths of all the original Avengers? That's all for this video. What are your thoughts on Marvel Studios turning down the John Wick director for Blade? Do you think it's going to affect the PG rating of the film? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.